block that we can get started. I want to welcome each of you to the regular meeting of the School District of Oconee County Board of Trustees on the September 19th evening. We just appreciate each of you being here and look forward to the meeting tonight. We always open with a moment of silence, so at this time, I ask you to join me if you would like to. Thank you. Tonight we are pleased a little bit later to have some school highlights from Northside Elementary, and Charlotte Kiker, who is their principal, is here to do that for us, and she has a student who is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So I will let you introduce them to us, please.
Sure. Paisley, if you'll come forward. So this is Paisley Robinson, and she is here. She is a second grader from Northside Elementary School. And we are just so glad that she is here, and she is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
If you'll stand with me, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so very much. We appreciate you being here. You did a great job. That was pretty good for a second grader. All right, at this time, we'd like to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. Again, that's September 19th, 2022 regular meeting agenda. Did anyone see anything they wanted to add or change? All right, it is approved with no objection. And at this time, Ms. Kiker, we will let you once again tell us about your school, Northside Elementary.
So I have some wonderful folks here with me today to kind of help me share the message of Northside and the school things that we have done this year that have been excellent. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Grandparents' Day. I have Paisley here with her grandparents that had the wonderful opportunity. If y'all will stand up, y'all can come up here. You want to come up here?
Oh, wonderful.
And grandparents, y'all stand up too. They said, we'll come, but we're not talking. So if you'll give them a big wave. We had a wonderful turnout for Grandparents' Day. It was kind of the first time that we opened our building again, and boy did our parents and grandparents show up and show out. Everybody had a wonderful breakfast from our new food service program that was delicious. Even our teachers were excited. Are there any leftovers? Some day there wasn't. On Cheeseburger Day, whatever day that was, there was no extras. So we were just excited. Thank you so much. Y'all can have a seat now. Miss Paisley, you can too. We're so excited that you got to attend with your grandparents. Here's some other folks that were there and joining us on this day. And now I have Katarina and Marcy Cope here. They are our PTC chairs and presidents, and they are going to talk to us about Pumpkin Fest and our pumpkin patch.
Yes, we are very excited. We're having something called Pumpkin Fest Tailgate. And before COVID, we had something called the Northside Tailgate. And we really make it like a football game tailgate. We put tailgate tents all around our field. We're going to have about 3 bouncy houses, like sports kind of thing, bouncy houses. Each grade level is going to have a tent, and they are going to do different games at the tent so the kids can come and go to each thing, like pumpkin bowling, just either face painting, hula hoop, whatever each grade level wants to come up with. We are going to have a pumpkin decorating contest, and the winner is going to win some sort of prize that we are going to determine soon, probably a gift card somewhere. So we're excited about that. We're going to have a DJ come, so we're going to have lots of music. We're going to have a cornhole competition. We're going to have some food trucks, and then the PTC will also be providing some free maybe popcorn or cotton candy, snow cones, something like that. So we really are trying to bring the pride of Northside to the Northside community, because we have been closed for so long with COVID. So we are trying to bring everybody back in. And so it's just a fun time for them to come out there and play. It's a 2-hour event, it's free for them. The only thing that costs is if they want to buy stuff in the food truck or whatnot. But we're really excited about that. We were talking about how it's coming up really soon and we have a lot of work to do. So we're excited about that, and that kind of goes along with our pumpkin patch. And I'm sure many of y'all have seen our pumpkin patch at Northside. And Katarina's going to tell you just a little bit about that.
So the pumpkin patch is, I wish I could tell you how long it's been running. I know that I've been here for 14 years and I have had my children there since they were babies. I've always brought them there and taken pictures with them, not even knowing that we were gonna attend Northside. So what we do is, this is a school fundraiser, and we bring, pumpkins from, we believe it's a Native American reservation, and they bring the pumpkins in on a certain day. The whole school will help. Yep. So the day the pumpkins come, usually the older kids, probably fifth grade, will come, and they'll come out and help unload the pumpkins. We have pallets galore.
I mean, you can see the truck, this transfer truck right there, and we just get all
The truck comes in, parents come, whatever volunteers we can get to help, along with staff and students, and they will unload the pumpkins. And we will have volunteers throughout all of October that will come out and they sort of man the pumpkin patch. We have our jobs that we do while we're there. We turn the pumpkins every day to make sure that they don't rot. It's really a lot of fun. I mean, that's where we really, I mean, I've made a lot of friends there and got to know a lot of people through helping. So we do that through the entire month of October. And that was the other reason we wanted to kind of coincide. We had wanted our tailgate to go along with the pumpkin patch too, just so we can kind of we can highlight the pumpkin patch as well.
Yes, so join us for the Pumpkin Fest. That is going to be on October 7th.
October 7th, that's right, from 5 to 7.
Yes, and we would love to have you there if you are able, and we understand that you have busy schedules. The pumpkin patch, or for the pumpkin, where we're actually having our, selling our pumpkins. If you want to come and buy a pumpkin too, we'd love for you to buy your pumpkins at Northside this year. So one of the really great things, I don't know if Katarina had a chance to mention, but our teachers work as well as PTC members. And I know that our administration team will be working together so that parents can come and meet us as well. And so we'll advertise that to parents to come and get to know us, and we'll have our children there picking pumpkins as well. So join us for all the things pumpkin at Northside.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies. Well, we have some big celebrations for YMCA swimming lessons. I had the pleasure of going on Thursday afternoon. I saw both groups, so this was kind of their finale. The life-saving skills that these children learned were amazing. We had some students that had never put their face in the water before. They have only had a shower, not a bath. And so big celebrations there. They had a boat and were pretending to tip it. What happens if you fall out of the boat? What do you do next? How do you save your life? It was great. So we are just super grateful and thankful. We've got some pictures here to celebrate, and it was a great turnout for the night as well, where families were able to join and kind of show off their skill set that they learned. So it was a phenomenal experience for our children at Northside, and we were glad to be the guinea pigs and kind of learn some of the hiccups for this year. But the way that they categorized the students into beginning swimmers and advanced swimmers was amazing, because we had some students learning on strokes and some students learning how to bounce in the water until they can get to safety, things of those nature. So it was great. We can't say enough about how much it means to our third grade students and to our families. So thank you. Just a couple more. Oh, and our teachers went swimming too. They enjoyed it. So that was a great day for the students to swim with their teachers as well. So we also kind of want to talk about what we're doing instructionally at Northside. So MTSS focused, we're going to focus on triangulating data. So it's not one test on one day. We're looking at children from a holistic approach. How are they doing in multiple assessments, and how do we move them forward from whatever level that they are on. So that means that our lower students, how do we pull them up? And our students that are gifted, how are we pushing them forward? And let's not forget about those bubble kids, because they are huge when it comes to the numbers. So we have a plan that you'll get to see in just a few minutes on how we are going to be pushing all of Northside students to the next level. We are going to be talking about Tier 1 instruction, which is what we're doing on the daily basis. To Tier 2, we're providing interventions for those students and have strategic MTSS plans, multi-tiered support system plans for our students. We're doing this with evidence-based interventions, so we're not just pulling them from anywhere. We want to make sure that it's an intervention that's going to work and going to work well for our students. In Northside's SE Ready data, we're sharing that with our faculty tomorrow, and we're excited to do so. We're going to celebrate the things that we've done well and work on how we can even improve that for us. And we are also going to focus on, what is it necessary, what's our focus area in improving in general data across the board, but specifically in how we're evaluated from the state, which is SE Ready, and that's standards-based instruction. So I kind of talked about MTSS and the tiered levels of support. Our SLOs this year are going to be math focused because out of the 2 SC Ready scores, that was the lower of our scores, and we have a strategic plan on how to do that. Mastery Connect is a program that is about assessment, and so we are looking at how do we expose our children to more rigorous questions so that they can perform better in those sections. So we're looking at our assessments and at least having 2 of more rigorous questions on there that are very like-minded with what they would see on SC Ready. So in their daily assessments that are occurring and their unit assessments they're seeing, that those are questions that they're likely to see, that the framework is structured the same on SC Ready. So our students are better prepared. We're going to be using IXL as a program too to focus on our standards-based instruction and personalizing. So closing that gap for our students. When there's prerequisite skills that haven't been closed for that student to master that standard, that's what we're doing with IXL. So we're going to be focusing on the standards and what are those skills that we need to learn to be able to master that standard so that our students can be successful. And what we're going to be using is HMH Math and Find Us Manel Classroom in order to do that. So we're very excited. We're sharing this plan with our teachers. Everything on here has been talked through with a group of teachers, and in collaboration with them, we thought that this would be the best way to improve our scores. So celebrate what we have, because our scores we feel like they're pretty good, but we know that we can do better. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate so much you coming. And we appreciate the grandparents. I know that was a great day, and the parents, and also what you're doing to get the community involved. I think that's so important, because as you said, there were several years that the schools were just not able to involve the community. So thank you, and we look forward to that pumpkin patch every year. My grandchildren love it. But thank you all for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. And Mrs. Kiker, you're doing a great job. We appreciate all the information that you brought to us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Paisley.
Absolutely. All right, and it's time for public comment, and I think we have several people who want to speak tonight.
Yes,
So,
ma'am. Jim Mann.
Can I back this up a little bit?
Just try and stay under that square, that's your the square
Okay.
above you is the microphone.
Takes me back a few years. Good evening, school board members, administrators, and everyone in attendance tonight. Thank you for coming. On behalf of myself, parents, and others, thank you for this opportunity to address this body. At the last meeting on August 15th, I spoke regarding the threatening song posted by Walhalla Middle School students at the very end of the 2022 school year. Tonight, I kind of have a collage of information from parents and myself. So I think they graciously offered me 10 minutes, and I want to make sure everybody understands this is a combined effort. There are parents involved. Unfortunately, a lot of them are reluctant to show up, which speaks to another issue potentially that I think the school board and administration really need to understand. But there are parents, members of our community, and Oconee County Republicans who continue to be concerned about this. And for me, to hear from people on the phone and email tell me that they are concerned about retaliation if they come and show up here to speak is an issue. So I just want to break the ice and make that very clear. So first, I'd like to read from a statement from a group of parents. From parents that see a need for policy change, we think it's important to note that the way the threatening rap song was handled leads to a lack of community trust. Due to the fact that the parents and others had no knowledge of the situation until it was almost time for the students to return to school, we believe that it was handled by the book, but the wrong book. We think that policy needs to change. The handwriting on the wall, question mark. Mental health. Kids hear about this and think that it's no big deal to threaten authority. In this case, administrators and teachers were threatened. You can sing a rap song about shooting and killing them, and consequences are 10 days out of school suspension, but that was reduced due to the end of the school year? What are the long-term consequences? Backpacks, lockers, car searches? Are they not going to be allowed to play school sports, band, go to other school functions where they can't be monitored? Are there any ongoing consequences? We don't necessarily think the board or law enforcement didn't handle it correctly. However, we do feel that there needs to be a change in policy. More consequences, steeper punishments. At the last board meeting, the attorney for the students that sang the rap song spoke on their behalf and said how sorry they were. How have they demonstrated that? Have they written letters to all those that they called out on the rap song to apologize? I think it would have been a good practice for the school superintendent to write a letter, a press release explaining the school safety policies and crisis prevention efforts. Would South Carolina Code 16-3-1040 only apply if the teachers, administrators filed case against the students? Does each student have a school-based threat assessment team? Who compiles these teams? Is there a school student mental health committee? Who are the members of this committee? And how often do they meet? And when was the last time that they met to review these current students today? So that's the first compilation. The second one is, this relates to me. First, I would like to call into question the current draft for last month's meeting minutes. After reviewing online, may I humbly suggest that the board objects to approving these minutes based on the content of public statements that were made. Mr. Jim Mann did not share his concerns and thoughts regarding a recent student discipline issue at Walhalla Middle School. Mr. Jim Mann did ask if someone from the school board or administration could respond to the community concerns about the threatening song at Walhalla Middle School in 2022. Both Dr. Ketterman and Dr. Thorsland responded to my question during that meeting. However, no mention of their statements are reflected in the meeting minutes. These are the copy. Also, Roberta Barton clearly stated she was a local attorney who represented these young men. Again, the minutes inaccurately state that she spoke on behalf of families concerning a recent discipline issue. Discipline was never mentioned by myself or her. She was defending those clients who were involved to create this threatening song and not speaking as a concerned citizen. I respectfully ask the board that the August 15 minutes be amended to reflect the actual public statements made before they are approved. Secondly, I would like to offer additional comments this evening that relate to this threatening song. Since August 15th, I've communicated through emails to both school board members and administrators about the issue. I would like to personally thank both Dr. Ketterman and Dr. Thorsland for responding and their willingness to have several follow-up phone calls to discuss it. Given the nature of the issue, I don't understand why other school board members decided not to respond or engage in the conversation. And I'll leave that on the floor as a separate concern. Beyond the school district, I've also spoken with the sheriff's office and the solicitor's office. For one reason or another, this is a hot potato. No agencies in Oconee County are willing to take this threatening song seriously. However, the threat was apparently real enough to get the FBI involved. So I have a question. Has everyone on this board heard or read the lyrics to this threatening song? If you aren't comfortable answering, you don't need to. Would there be any objection by this board if I took the time now to read the lyrics publicly?
It'd be hilarious.
I'm just asking a question. If there's an objection, I can pass them out and you can have them if you haven't seen them. My point is, it's important to read them, put your eyes on them, and see what was said, if you have not already. So I'll take it on advisement that I'll pass that out later if that's appropriate.
Oh, we can't say we can't say the lyrics.
I have to ask permission of the board in order to read or pass them out. The chairman will need to make that decision.
Yeah, I don't,
Is that allowed for him?
yeah, I would say that that would probably not be the best thing just because of the profanity and the,
Exactly.
What I-
Because of the vulgarity in it, shooting people, killing people. It's not allowed in here, but in the school it's fine. Right? Where my kid goes to school,
Exactly.
for them to say
So-
these horrible
so-
things.
okay, Mr. Mann's speaking right now, so.
So could I get from Dr. Thorsland or the chair, is it okay for me to hand that out so that the board members can see that later?
Sure.
Because I don't know if you guys have really been able to consider it. I don't know the answer to that. I sincerely hope that it's clear to this board and administration why many in the community are puzzled by the decision not to responsibly communicate the existence of this threat to parents. If I could respond to a comment made during the recent September 12th working meeting, the comment was no complaints from the public came during the end of the school year about this. The reason for that silence was because the community was largely unaware of the threat being made until July or August, when it became known. Also, I understand from the meeting that the SDOC is activating a school safety and security webpage. I would like to commend the board and administration for taking this action. The biggest question which still looms large over this issue is, was due diligence done at the school and law enforcement levels to hopefully deter future realization of the threats that were made? Some high school students have reported that at least one of the suspect students has been heard making the statement, "We got street cred now, bro." If that report is true, then that is very concerning. Lastly, I respectfully remind the SDOC board and administration of their stated mission. It's right up there on the back of the wall. To partner with families to develop responsible, productive citizens who are lifelong learners. Partnering with families is the key that I want to emphasize tonight. That's what the community doesn't feel happened. In closing, I want to thank you again for your time to address this body. Can I let you pass it out? Sure. I don't know how many copies, there's more than enough there.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Kathy Littleton.
I won't take nearly as long.
You have 5 minutes, I just can't reset the timer, sorry.
I just wanted to say, as a parent, I'm just disappointed, and I'm here to talk about the same thing. My child is disabled, and I just don't feel like he was protected by this decision. It's been nearly 6 years since Townville, and it could happen again. I don't feel like this was a good decision, a sound decision. There's just so many layers to this that I don't even know where to start with the disappointment. He handed out those lyrics. There's no way that you could think that this was a good decision, that it's safe. If I were to say any of those things to you, law enforcement would come and get me and take me away. They would take me out of here. It was a threat. There's no way that you could say that it wasn't a threat. I too have talked to a lot of people. These students are, like he said, saying that they're street cred now, that they're still bullying other students. They feel good about what they did. They're not sorry. Roberta Barton was doing her job. I don't blame her. She came, she said what she said. She's, a great attorney. She's getting paid to do what she does. But this was a bad decision. Parents don't feel good about it. They're still upset. But the way this is set up, they don't feel good about coming here. They have to work. It isn't convenient for them. And it's just, I can't say enough about how badly the community seems to feel about this. And they, the only way they seem to be able to express it is online. And there isn't really a good forum for it. And I saw somewhere where someone said, well, there's no social media for it. There's no setup. And you guys would do well to set up something where the parents could just say, hey, this is how I feel, or this is, when something like this happens. Here again, I'm not an eloquent public speaker, but you would do well to give them a forum and have had something set up right after this happened to have people come and give their thoughts and express what they felt, because people are still upset and they don't feel good about this. They don't feel safe. Their kids don't feel safe, and they're still having problems. And it seems like, and public perception does matter, and it is everything. What it seems is that these 4 boys mattered more than the safety of the rest of the students and your staff and your teachers. And it also seems, and is very telling, that none of your teachers spoke up, not even for the good. None of them stepped up and said, hey, we feel safe. We know that this was a sound decision. We know that they made the right decision. We know that this was good. They didn't come to your defense. None of them, not one. None of them would talk to the news. None of them would speak out for you. So that's all I have. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Ken Unsworth.
It's Carrie.
I'm sorry?
Carrie.
Oh, Carrie, I'm sorry, I apologize.
My handwriting is terrible. Don't tell my English teacher.
Hello, my name is Carrie Unsworth. I have a 2nd grader at Kiwi Elementary and a 8th grader at Walhalla Middle. And I will say I've been in Oconee County 22 years, and I'm very pleased with the school district. I am also in student ministry as a mom that has an 8th grader at Walhalla Middle. I did hear through the grapevine about the song. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because I think we have a lot of things I want to cover in my 4.5 minutes. But what I would say as a parent, I do trust the leadership. I do trust Scott Dixon. I've always trusted the authority and leadership of our school district. And I will say that to hear it through someone else, the situation was very upsetting for me as a mom, because I know that we can do better than that. I also know that parents need to be engaged. I have been the founder of a PTA at Kiwi Elementary School, and there's always a lot that gets said, but when it comes to sitting down and talking with leaders, as you see in this room that's mostly empty, very few people will. And I hope that we can work together on fostering an atmosphere that people feel like they can trust, sharing, discussing. It is a polarizing time, even if you're paying someone a compliment. So I understand that. I did take this up with my son, who would have been in 7th grade at the time, He went to all the school dances. He's a straight A student. I'm so proud of him. But I did ask him if he had heard about the song, and he said no. And he said, "But sorry, I'm going to try not to cry. But Mom, I do want to tell you that at the last dance, we couldn't even have a good time because the police were looking for drugs." And so as I am 100% an advocate, I do believe you, Dr. Thorsland, I do believe the situation was handled correctly. As a mom, I would like to work on transparent communication with parents and guardians, weekly, daily. We get a bulletin from Scott Dixon every day, and I read it. We pull it up in the car line. I know I'm breaking a cell phone rule, but my son and I read it together, make sure we haven't missed anything. And so that's just kind of my call to action. The last thing, I have 3:36. Switching gears a little bit. On that note too, I would like to know what is involved in a threat assessment, because you did mention that a threat assessment was performed. I would just like to know what's involved. I think educating parents would help us a lot. Switching gears, some new data has come out where $78 billion of our taxpayer money in the United States is now used for LEPs, which is teaching kids that don't know English, the English language. I'm so happy that we are not a state that's dealing with a lot of illegal immigration, but I think to the degree it's happening, at some point it's going to become a challenge for us. And I would like at some point for us to be able to talk about the future and what the plans are for mass immigration. One of the statistics, this is not even counting what's happened post-2020. This is data based on census data that is up to 2020. 100,000 teachers are teaching LEPs and they have no certification to do so because the need is so great. Over 200,000 teachers are needed to teach LEP to adequately respond to the need that these children have. My heart is for that community. I'm very thankful that we have teachers in our classrooms that are willing to do this across our country. I have never had a bad experience with any of my children's teachers in the 13 years I've been part of the school district. We have always worked together. And so that is my first question. I would like to know if there's a plan in place. Will you guys be working on addressing it as more of the data comes in? And how, as parents, can we help? I believe we need an epidemic of volunteerism with people. We are very blessed in our county to have a huge percentage of retired people that want to come in and help. And I think the more proactive we are, the better equipped we'll be able to handle that. The last thing is, in the UK, they just passed some legislation about, based on data, where students are experiencing hypersensitivity sickness to cell towers. I know that, this is probably not as brand new on people's radar, but I am curious about, because we have a huge degree of difference now when my son's on his Chromebook versus when he was in 2nd and 3rd grade. They are on electronic technology all day, and of course, we all know they're on it when they come home, despite boundaries. We fight that fight every day. And so I just wanted to put those two things on your radar. And again, the call to action is working together with parents and guardians and the people that love these students in our school district and the staff and administration as well to address those issues. Thank you.
Just a couple of things I did want to mention about the Walhalla Middle situation in response to some of the things that were said. Some of the information that is received in the community may not be accurate. Mr. Mann, you mentioned suspensions were reduced. I'm not sure where that information came from. It's not accurate. Another comment was made in the audience that we're asking that the lyrics not be read here, but it's okay at school. I'd like to know who said it was okay at school. Nobody condoned that behavior at all. Maybe somebody disagrees with how it was handled and how it was addressed, but it's definitely not fair to say the school district, the school administration, the district administration, nor the school board condones that behavior. Nobody's condoning that behavior. The song was vile. And I have listened to it, read the lyrics. It was vile. It was awful. Nobody has said anything different from the school district administration. The comment was made that there was not a fear for mass violence at Walhalla Middle School the last day or two of school when this came to light. And I would still stand by that. The people that work every day at Walhalla Middle School that were the most involved and the most informed still feel that that was the right decision not to call off school or make a mass announcement. So I stand by that. In no way did anyone condone the behavior of the students involved in this. So anyway, it's hard to make informed decisions without all the knowledge. And in certain cases, all the knowledge just can't be shared because we do have, yes, there are laws about threats, and threats are illegal and wrong. There's also laws about student privacy, and we can't just share private information publicly about our students, whether that's punishment or grades or anything that is a student record is private. And we're not at liberty just to share information publicly. In some ways, I wish we could. But the final thing I'll say is anytime something like this happens, it is a learning experience. Mr. Hamby will tell you quickly. We've had many, many hours of conversations. We have learned things from this experience that we'll do better if something like this happens again. But nobody said the behavior that was exhibited was okay, and nobody condoned it. And it was handled, and I think even at that meeting down at West Oak, when this first came up, I think I said it could be argued, you could argue that the punishment was too light. You could argue different things about the situation, that the communication wasn't good, but it was within the realm of our student behavior code. It wasn't ignored. It wasn't swept under the rug. So again, things have been talked about. There are things we're learning. Ms. Dodd, last week, as a matter of fact, we shared with the board that new information on safety and security that's live now. You can go on our website, and where it says About Us, there is a tab now where parents can get much of the information that was even mentioned in here, information about the committees and different things like that. There's some I'll say general information. We can't be too specific about, the questions that are on the threat assessment and things. We don't want people to be able to practice the answers to those things so that they know, if I do a threat, here's exactly what they're going to ask me and here's what I'm going to tell them. We're not going to give that kind of information out. But as far as how it's handled, some general information about our safety and security is out there now. And we plan to discuss this at our first parent advisory meeting that's coming up later this week. And, we're not trying to run away from it. It's just that conflicting laws, not conflicting necessarily, but there are laws in place that prevent us from being able to share all of the information that I think the public would want. We just can't do it. And if it were your child, you'd want us to not do it too. That's kind of where we are, and I'm happy to.
Are we done with public comment?
No,
Is there,
no.
is there?
That's all that I have signed
That's all the
up.
ones
Yes,
signed
I'd
up?
like to sign up.
We have to sign up before the meeting begins.
Was that notice on the door or something? I didn't see it.
That's fine, you can speak.
My name's John Morgan, I'm from Mountain West. I'm retired. There's a bunch of folks upset
Sir,
about this. This is not.
Sir, if you could just come to the podium, the microphone system in the room won't pick you
Okay.
up back there. It will if you stand at the podium.
And
So
this situation is not over. Y'all are sweeping this under the rug. And sir, I'm addressing you. You are the leader of the pack. We pay you the big bucks to teach our kids. But there's two things that really come into play: keeping the students safe and the teachers safe. You did a real good job of trying to sweep this thing completely under the rug with no one knowing about it. You get a real good grade for that. These kids are running around school. It's all through the neighborhood. If y'all aren't putting someone into school to find out what these four hoodlums have done and what they're still talking about how they got away with it, then you're not doing your job, because it's going on. I understand all the privacy stuff, and I've talked with the sheriff about this, and I understand the law. But I'm saying to you, sir, you should have expelled them, and this would have been put to bed. This is not over. It's still ongoing at the schools, and that's a real, real sad state of affairs. Thank you for letting me speak.
So I was going to ask, and that's why I asked if we were finished with public comment. Is there a way that we can kind of broad stroke, not the details, but what is involved in the threat assessment and also the student health, mental health committee, just kind of a broad stroke of it? Because I know I've had just some questions regarding that, and then I know some other folks did too.
yes. As I mentioned last time, the behavioral threat assessment, some people may refer to it as the BTAM, behavioral threat assessment. What's the M stand for? I'm not sure. Anyway, but it is the state of South Carolina did ask school districts a couple of years ago to put this in place. I will say that ours was in place before the state asked school districts to do that. It is not a policy that we could find in any school district, but it's a procedure that has to be in place, that if a student does make a threat, it could be a threat against someone else, it could be a threat against themselves, but there has to be procedures in place to handle that situation. And when we say handle that situation, obviously it involves communicating with the student, it involves communicating with the student's parents. In some case, it involves law enforcement. In some cases, it may involve mental health professionals. That is determined as the assessment begins. The answers to questions would determine, where it goes from here, and we actually have a flow chart that our counselors are trained in, our administrators are trained in, and it basically says, all right, here's the situation. If this happens, you go here. If this happens, you go here. And there, it's a process. And eventually, a decision has to be reached that says, here's the level of threat that we're talking about. And I won't say it was done perfectly, but that process was put into place in this situation. And while there were things I mentioned, things that we could learn, things we can do better, we talked about that this morning. Things that we can do better if this happens again, and it's our job to make sure the principals are aware. We've talked about this in principals meetings. About what we've learned, and if it were to happen again, how we can more effectively handle the situation. We've got the school district behavioral health committee. Each school would have a team put together. And there's not just a team where I can say person A, person B, person C, but it would be an administrator, a counselor, it could be a mental health professional, parents are involved, so there are multiple people that could make up those teams, and the size of the team is somewhat determined by the level of the threat and what was said, and so,
It starts, I called the people in Columbia to make sure we were doing what we're supposed to do. It starts with a two-member team is basically what you have, two people who are trained in the Cornell threat assessment, which is what our district uses. One person does the questioning, and the other person is an observer and takes notes of the student. And then you determine from there if it goes to a different assessment. They have transient, and then they have another term for a more profound threat, suspected threat. So then it goes that route, and then you add a third person in there when they question, which is typically a mental health person, which all our folks are trained on that, and that's part of the refresher courses that Lisa and her team have them do before the year starts. In fact, I shared with one of the people the information in that on that flow chart. But we did reach out to Columbia because people kept saying, well, you're supposed to have a policy, you're supposed to have a policy. You don't have to have a policy. It's kind of like accreditation. You have a plan that they approve. And to give Ms. Simmons and her department credit, when Dr. Browley was here too, we started that about 2 years before the state mandated it. And we have a strong committee that works on that, and we do take that very seriously. But they went through that process as they should.
And then the student mental health committee, is that
Student Behavioral Health Committee
so
would
that
be
is,
all.
each individual school has their own, we don't have a
We
district-wide?
have a district-wide committee that
Okay.
helps synthesize information, make decisions like that. District committee helped us put that BTAM process in place. But then within each school, a committee could be assembled to handle a certain incident, depending again on what that incident is. But each school needs to have counselors and administrators trained because, it probably wouldn't be very effective to have a counselor from one school go to another school to conduct a threat assessment because they don't know the child, they don't know the situation. So you want people that are familiar with what's going on conduct. So we have a district-wide behavioral health committee, and then school committees would be assembled as needed from a group of people that have been trained. And then they certainly could reach out to the district committee for questions and advice, and Ms. Simmons leads that student behavioral health team that's kind of the district-wide committee that's been meeting. I told somebody the other day, I wish I had the minutes of that first meeting, but I do remember when we first met. We met in the library conference room at Blue Ridge Elementary. It's been many, many years ago.
Probably 4 years ago, to be honest, because it was when I started. And our committee meets regularly, especially right now. We're planning the Hike for Hope, which is, for Suicide Awareness Month. So we've met multiple times, monthly at least, if not every few weeks. A big part of what we've also worked on as a committee too, quite a few years ago now, is the policy that we have on suicide prevention. And when that came down, from the state, that had a lot of research along with that. And it was kind of the first time as districts that we really stepped into that mental health arena when you're talking about suicide. And it's a very sensitive topic. So that committee came to the board, presented the policy with things we have in place, and that's also information that's on our website now that you can see what our process is if a student threatens to harm themselves. We use the Columbia Screener for that. Our individuals are trained in that. It was hard at the beginning to start that because it's uncomfortable, but we've gotten a lot better with being able to meet our students' needs with that. So I feel like we have strong people on our district committee,
And you'll also see a section on the website that talks about our crisis response teams, is what Dr. Thorsland was referring to. In our schools, they get updated every year. Those teams are also part of the emergency handbooks for each school. And they do reach out and ask a lot of questions, which we want them to, because these are important decisions that need to be made as well. But we are always looking for insight, feedback. So I am grateful that we have this information on our website. So if there is something else our committee needs to be looking at, we would be happy to do that.
And I guess I would just want to make one more comment as a follow-up, and I don't, I'm not necessarily even applying it to this particular situation, but I would just say, it's easy to want to just get rid of a problem. But expulsion, in some cases it's necessary, and I'm certainly not someone who should say we shouldn't punish kids. We should punish bad behavior in an attempt to help a kid learn to behave correctly. But if you look at school shooters who have perpetrated violence in our schools across the country, expelling a kid doesn't take away the threat. In some cases, it may make it worse, to be perfectly honest, because a kid who, while they're not in the school every day, we can look here locally at the school shooting. That child wasn't in school. And expulsion is not just a fix-all to say, okay, we can take care of this, it's now the threat's gone. Maybe not. Maybe we have, anyway. Sorry.
Well, I thank each of you who came tonight and who spoke. I think it was a good dialogue to have, and I do appreciate it. All right, at this time, we have on our agenda the approval of the minutes from August 15th, which was the combined board meeting minutes.
To address Mr. Mann's concern, should we amend the wording to say not discipline?
I think we can go back and listen to the recording and we can make the necessary amendments.
Okay.
Yes, we can.
If you would like for us just to put that on the October
Okay.
agenda to do that.
Okay.
The one caveat I'd say is, the minutes are not to be a transcript. They're just a guide. The video is there for anyone to listen to get word for word if they want that. The minutes are just a very brief, kind of just a snapshot of what happened. But we certainly can work to add that. Ms. Bay sends those to me to kind of initial before they go to you, so I'll certainly take ownership of that, but we can look to address that since Mr. Mann thinks that wasn't reflected accurately, and we'll try to have those for you for the October meeting to approve.
All right, so we'll table the approval of the minutes from August 15th. All right, and next, I believe we have Mr. Weber here to update us on the Seneca Middle construction update.
How are y'all? Gary, good to see you. I've seen many of you over the years and just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to continue to work for you. We truly enjoy working with the school district. It's been a great partnership, and we hope to be able to continue it for years to come. Just briefly, the school is going quite well. Site work is pretty well complete. Grading is done, with the exception of the work on Wells Highway, which we're waiting on an SCDOT encroachment permit. A good bit of the paving is in, a lot of the curb and gutter is in. We've gone as far as we feel comfortable putting that work in. We've got a big crane to bring in yet to start setting steel, and we don't want to start breaking up asphalt and breaking up curb and gutter unnecessarily. So we've kind of stopped at the point we are until steel comes. As of tomorrow, pretty much all the slab on grade is poured. That means all the plumbing, all the underground plumbing is in place, all the underground electrical is in place, and we're making our last pours tomorrow. It's been a bit of an uphill challenge. I don't know if y'all know, over the past months, there's been cement shortages, there's been fly ash shortages, It's been challenging to keep the concrete coming and keep on schedule with all that, but we've been successful at doing that, and it's gone quite well. Over the next couple weeks, I see the first of the structural steel starting to come. We're looking the building from areas 100 to 200 as you look at it from Wells Highway, and you've got some low-tech pictures there you can look at. If you look at it from Wells Highway, area 100 is on the right, and area 800 is on the left, the last bit of the classroom. We're starting the building from areas 100 and 200. That's the gymnasium and the cafeteria and media centers and kitchen. Also, the main electrical room and the main mechanical rooms. That's the slowest part of the building. It takes us the longest, so of course, that's where we're starting. And that's where the first steel will be coming in. The first steel arrives, and there's some mechanical mezzanines kind of at a mid-level that we have to get in, and then the rest of the load-bearing walls spring off of those mezzanines, and a couple weeks after that, the remainder of the roof steel for those areas come in. The masons are currently finishing up those areas. The crews are now moving into areas 3, 4, 5, and 6, which we call phase 2, which picks up your office area, media centers, and gets into the first classroom wing. So they're moving from right to left and coming along well. It's kind of a constant push. Materials are hard to get these days, long lead items on things like steel, but we were able to get things started. The architect's been extremely helpful as we go through. We have to do a lot of shop drawings and submittals of all the materials that we plan to use on the job, and they've been great. We're trying to turn that stuff around quickly so that we can keep materials moving, and all in all, it's another good project. We're enjoying it. Hope y'all are.
He didn't know if anybody had specific questions for him as we go. Just wanted to let y'all know we are still on schedule and moving forward, and been, knock on wood, I probably shouldn't say it, but minimal change orders. It's been working very well. All those 150 meetings you had beforehand hopefully pay off for you.
And Jack mentioned to me before the meeting started that he included on the last page of a handout you have with those pictures, just the subcontractors that are helping on the job. I think I counted 6 Oconee County companies that are helping Trail build this. And we have bidding, the school district bids and has a process to procure, of course, Trail to build the company. But then Trail works with us with an eye to try to employ local companies. It helps them, helps us when we're able to do that. So I appreciate Trail being willing to make sure to reach out to local companies to at least give the local companies an opportunity to bid. At the end of the day, if a local company costs quite a bit more than a company from down the road a little bit, we probably need to go with the best price because we need to make sure we're getting a good price. But they are always open to entertaining local companies and working with people whose children will attend the school and that kind of thing.
Yeah, and sometimes it's just the amount of work is just more than some of the smaller ones around can handle, so it's kind of a catch-22 at times. I know we're able to use them a lot more on the smaller projects when we do an addition or renovation in some cases.
And if you actually recall, in the past, we've divided up like masonry and awarded it to 2 different companies so that we could use one of the local subcontractors. Money didn't dictate that we could do that this time. It was cheaper to go with someone from Charlotte, but we do work hard at trying to make sure that we've got good participation in Oconee County. But I think you'll see from the list that most everyone is local. They're
Certainly within
in Georgia. They're not far into Georgia. They're from mostly Greenville, and that's really important when you have troubles down the road and you need to call someone to come look at something or fix something. They don't have to come from Columbia or Myrtle Beach or.
Well, the superintendent, his kids will go there to that school. Brandon's kids will be in the school. who's working, basically,
Right,
running the
right.
project.
And Brendan, he's the superintendent on the project, is a Wahala graduate.
Yeah, he graduated from Wahala, but his family is in our district, and his kids will be there, so.
Yep.
Well, as I told Mr. Weber earlier, I rode by there Saturday. If you haven't been by there recently, it's really taken some shape, so I encourage you to do that, but we appreciate it. We appreciate you coming tonight and bringing this information.
We want to remind folks that the timeline for this is August of '24. So that's our official timeline, because it's a 18-month or so project with everything going well. So weather right now and that, and we'll
Yeah, have
continue
we
to see
had
good
any
progress.
rain delays?
It's really been great.
Okay.
Yeah, unless you're in the grading business, and then you.
Right.
And knowing your crystal ball, it probably doesn't work a whole lot better than ours does, even predicting supplies and materials and orders.
Yeah.
Is there any reason to consider that there might not be a reason to complete on time?
No, I don't, honestly, I don't foresee what it.
They've actually pre-ordered a lot of the stuff. We released the mechanical stuff, and the company has it stored in a warehouse in Spartanburg. They've been trying to do that, and the things that we saw 8, 12, 14-month lead time on, Jack and his team, John Folk, and they were very good about making sure we got those things ordered in time to get them when we're gonna need them. So that's like I said, we've been meeting for 3 solid years to get to this point. So it's coming together. We're very pleased.
The other thing I forgot to mention, we're trying to work hand in hand with Seneca Light and Water to get the site lighting finished, installed, and we hope to actually turn it on soon, which would help from a theft standpoint to get as much light out there as we possibly could.
Very good.
Thank you, sir. We
Thank
really
you.
appreciate
We
you taking
appreciate
time
it.
to come out and share with us.
All right, and now we're gonna hear about state assessments.
Yes, and Ms. Dodd has a press release that we'll send out either tonight or tomorrow morning, but we wanted to talk to you about it first. We got our end of court results last week, and today, I think, is the embargo date for those. The State Department sent out a release for that. And I just wanted to share a couple of positive things, and Ms. Simmons may chime in as well. But we did meet the stated board goal of being top 10 in the district in a couple of areas, which was great. So there are 70-plus school districts in South Carolina. There are always some consolidations the last few years, so, being top 10 certainly is kind of a lofty goal, because some of the districts, quite honestly, are in areas of the state where there's much less poverty, and that does have a correlation with test scores, like it or not, it does. And so with us being in the 60% range on students in poverty, that can be a challenge. Of course, there are other areas of the state that are much higher than 60% with poverty. But I do want to brag on our 8th grade math teachers. 8th grade math results were 3rd in the state last year, which was really, really good. And then our biology end of course test finished in the top 10 as well, our performance on that. So students did really well in our Biology 1 classes. Overall, there are 18 different areas. If you take grades 3 through 8 in English and math, and then we have 2 grade levels tested in science, so that is 14. And then we have 4 end of course tests at the high school level, for a total of 18 assessments where we could potentially be in the top 10. 2 of those. So we've got work to do. We've got areas, particularly in our early grades, where we're even below the state average. If you look at the mean score for some of our early grades, it doesn't even reach the state average. But one thing that we can be proud of is by the time students reach middle school and high school, there's not a single area where we're behind the state mean or below the state mean. So I think that shows that our teachers make a difference, because at the early grades, we may be behind a little bit, but by the time the students reach middle and high school, They've received quality instruction for a number of years, and then our performance exceeds that of the state. We want to exceed it more often and earlier, and we want our mean to be higher each year. And Lisa and her team they presented to the principals just this last week to share some individual scores, and they'll be working over the coming weeks and months to formulate plans at each school level, because we look at it as a district and then kind of look out at the schools. Schools take that data and look at what their performance is, and then even break it down into particular teachers, particular students, areas of strengths, weaknesses that we need to address. So definitely some celebrations that can be had, but then also some areas where we recognize we need to work a little harder and improve. Anything?
We are starting, our data team process, as you can see just from Ms. Kiker presenting tonight, that a lot of our schools just are in that protocol, getting their data. They're already creating a plan of action, which is great to see. I also am very excited about where we are just instructionally in our K1 and 2, where we have, identified phonemic and phonological awareness as an area that we really need some growth in. So we have implemented Heggerty, which is a tier 1, like our core instruction. That's something new we just started last year. In our data for those grades, we're seeing that our kids are coming in more on track than they were last year, so we're really excited. But we do feel like we've made some systematic curriculum changes at the elementary level, where we have some more common curriculums that we're using across the board, that we're implementing with Fidelity, and are excited about what we're going to continue to see as improvement there. We're still kind of, I think, in that reactive stage where we're trying to close gaps and things like that. So I'm looking forward to when we're seeing our K1 and 2, because we've got great teachers at all our levels, but that's their foundation and where we're coming in, that we're really proactive down there so we don't have to be as reactive in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And so we're kind of in that transition right now, but we've got a lot of wonderful teachers that are on board with the new curriculum changes that we've started last year. And we've been in schools a lot, all since the beginning of the year in our department, which has been a lot of fun. And working with teachers and seeing students. And we were looking at our schedule just for this week, and we're all over the place. So we're excited to be back in buildings and really offering that support to our teachers, and continue to encourage them to reach out for us for help and support too. So.
And we're happy to try to answer questions if you have any questions, or we might have to get John Arnold to help us out. He's kind of the person that crunches the numbers in Lisa's department. He's working actively with principals. But again, some things to be proud of, and some areas we need to keep working harder.
Like this information you gave us pretty much covers what you were talking about, I suppose. So all we just need to take, if you have any questions about it, I think maybe we'll look at it closely, and next time we can maybe ask some questions.
Certainly.
This is
And
good
of course,
information.
that data is available to anybody on the state website. The State Department of South Carolina puts out information about every school. Anybody with an internet connection can go in and look at results from any school at any level across the state of South Carolina. So we just printed some of that information for you, and you let us know if you have any questions, and we're happy to try to answer them.
Thank you for the hard copy.
Yeah. Anybody else have questions or comments on this? Well, I'll take a look at it. All right, our next item is for discussion and possible action, the 23-24 school calendar.
Yes, so we did do the survey. We sent that out, and it went from my email, so I got back the questions and that. I probably had 25 to 30 interactions with staff members who had questions. Some of them may have sent you guys questions as well. I know like we got one today from someone who wanted to share their thoughts, and they gave us a sample calendar. And I think what people have to understand is that when you're looking at a calendar, number one, there's not going to be anything that everybody likes. For us, the focus is on what is the best calendar instructionally that we can do for our kids and our staff to instruct. And for us, that involves things like getting done before Christmas with first semester, making sure that we have the time after in April and into May, like the calendar that the person sent today, the sample, it had 2 days off in May, like on the 3rd and the 6th. Well, we're doing AP testing then. And they don't know that necessarily because of the level of school that they're at. So, you know, sometimes elementary schools, you know, they're in their world, and I was an elementary principal and in that world, and we didn't always think about the high schools and vice versa in that. We look at the big picture and we try to come up with the best calendar. The reason we want to do it so early is so people have time to make arrangements, because that's one of the things we hear. Let us have time to make plans and adjust if we need to. And so we're going to do that. And we actually, Dr. Thorson is working on something for the following year that we, you know, will bring pretty quickly to try to get out as well. But anyway, the survey results, we had 774 responses, which is just a tad over 50% of our employees that we sent it out to. So if you remember several years ago, we did a calendar survey, it's about the same. But the choice was pretty clear for them, as you can see on the survey results and the pie graph there. Option 3, with 60% of the vote, is by far the favorite of the staff that decided to vote. Although I will add that some people said they didn't like any of them, but they were going to vote for 3. We talked about it as a team, and you know, we thought that the 2 weeks blocked off at Christmas was the deal on that one. That was part of the reason that people really dug into that one. But we are, you know, have heard from them, and we're listening, and you know, we would be happy with any of the 3 because we're going to work 240 days and that. But we think that it's still the best calendar option for our kids is one of these 3, and the staff, if you want to go what they had, they voted for number 3.
And if we did want to get parent feedback, I suspect it'll be similar to what our staff feedback is, because many of the staff members who voted for this are also parents. We can certainly do that, so I think I sent you an email saying we could decide tonight, because the sooner the better. We have had a call, Mr. Hamby had a call about already made plans for next summer. So the longer we wait, the more families are going to have made plans for next summer. So that I think there is some reason to decide as quickly as possible. But if you would like for us to do a quick survey like this amongst parents, we can do that. Anyway.
Did we get around to doing the all-call just to let parents know that this was on the radar so that they can take a look at the options, see what's going on, just to inform them, hey, this is something coming up, you know, y'all need to be aware that we are voting on this? Have we?
No, we
have
didn't.
not, okay.
We sent a mass email to all SDLC staff. With
yeah.
the survey and all the paperwork that explained, because some people get confused, and they think if you talk about a modified year-round, and like you're adding days or something, it's still 180 days for kids, it's still 190 days for teachers, it's still 225 days for elementary, you know, admin and so on. It's just a matter of when you get them in there, and for us, again, it's instructionally focused from our belief that, you know, you get those classes done before Christmas, you have those exams, you have a break, you know, you have a work day to start the second semester so that teachers can get ready for their new list of students, especially at the high school and the career center and that, and then, you know, you finish up the year strong and have your exams and graduation, so.
And then the other question was, in October with the week-long break, how will that affect our athletes? Will they be required to still come to practice? If their family did want to take a vacation, are they going to be penalized for missing practice or missing a game? How does that affect the athletes for the fall sports?
Well, I mean, as a dad who had kids that played sports, you know, we didn't go on spring break trips because my son was playing baseball. That's just, we knew that up front. You know, my wife and daughter went to the beach, but me and James stayed here and he played baseball. And I mean, it kind of comes with the territory. No, like at Seneca, I know they took a bus around to pick up kids that didn't have transportation and that for practice and things. So we would work out those logistics with them. But no, the expectation would be, you know, that this is a schedule, this is a season. If I'm the coach, I want my kids to be at practice and to be at the games.
But I would argue that's not really any different than what we have now, because typically the last week in July is an open date for football and fall sports. So we're taking another week of the summer that they're still practicing, they still have to be there, they still can't go on vacation. And we're just moving that vacation to October when they're going. Again, my children were like Mr. Hamby's, they were involved, and you just kind of knew once your sports started, your travel options are limited, and that's one of those decisions a family makes. And
the only time we don't really enforce, we tell our coaches not that they need to have a little more leniency on that, is over Christmas, when it's 2 weeks and you're having things. So if somebody's going out of town on Christmas, like we had a student at one of our middle schools who was going to visit family in Ohio. Well, she couldn't be at practice. Well, we're not going to penalize her for that. Now, if she never comes to practice when she gets back, then maybe that's a different story. But most of our coaches understand, but, you know, in this time, what you'd probably see is, you know, our tennis teams and golf and those, a lot of the teams would probably not try to schedule matches or meets that week because they got the schedule and they got the calendar in advance. Football, the conference does the schedule for you. So that you're going to be set and they're going to have to do it.
yeah, there will most likely be, if calendar option 3 was selected, October 13th, which is the Friday of that vacation week, there will be football games.
Right.
So, you know, the athletes would have to deal with that.
Is number 3 your recommendation?
It would be awful hard for us not to recommend what 60% of the faculty and staff.
My recommendation, based on what the respondents told us.
Yeah.
Yes, we would certainly, otherwise, I think people could rightly say, why'd you ask us?
Why'd you ask
Why'd you ask us? Yeah.
So, I guess the big decision, I think, for you to make, and really, I've got no opinion on this, other than I can argue for doing it tonight, I could argue wait until next week. If you did it tonight, certainly parents know, but there may be some who say, I didn't know y'all were deciding that tonight, if they didn't see the board agenda. Another advantage to waiting till next week, we could do 3 weeks. I'm sorry, waiting till October, till next month. We could give you 23, 24, and 24, 25 calendars, because Mr. Hamby and I developed one this afternoon that would look as similar to this as possible, just for the next school year. And then we wouldn't be making this decision where it's affecting people planning. They can see 2 years' worth of calendars and they can know what's coming. I do think there's some value in that. And I also think that this calendar option 3 is kind of different from what we've been doing. And I think there's merit towards doing it for more than 1 year to see if people adjust to it. And after 2 years, if people aren't saying, oh, that week in October is great, or, hey, that long Christmas break is wonderful, you know, just to kind of get a feel for what families are thinking about the calendars after they've lived with them for a couple of years.
So your recommendation actually is to wait till next?
Like I said, I can see merit to deciding, but yeah. So.
Well, really, if you want parent feedback, then we gotta wait. If we're going with what the teachers have said and that, then we've got what you need to.
I think probably, if we're gonna hold true to partnering with families, just let us wait. We'll get information out. Friday at Parent Advisory, we can not only publicize this calendar, I'll share, this evening before I leave, I'll share with you the calendar that Mr. Hamby and I kind of put on paper for the 24-25 school year. And maybe in October, we could be prepared with a package deal to do two calendars. And then that takes away any uncertainty that families feel.
I like that.
I think that would be good.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll delay it until October.
Okay.
No problem.
All right. Still me.
Still you.
This one's a quick one. So when we updated the policy back and the Code of Conduct handbook back in the summer, I overlooked that we needed to make this change in another area. We made it in 2 areas. I didn't realize we needed to make it in 3. So I asked last time that we just change out. And all we're doing is changing first to third in those spots to make it match up with what we had agreed to. And that was what the principals had requested, so.
All right, I don't think this is anything new to us. Anybody had any questions? We've talked about this. All right. So, if we could then, have a motion to approve a second reading, final approval, policy JICJ-R, possession use of electronic communication devices in school administrative rules.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All right. Any more discussion on it? All in favor? Okay. Great. All right, that is the end of our regularly scheduled meeting. If I could have a motion to go into executive session for personnel items, employment recommendations and changes, please.
I so moved.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor? All right, we are in executive